Hello friends, welcome to your channel Geomatics. This is the lecture 4 of the Prakash Bas of GNSS lecture series. In this video or in this lecture, we will study about the DGPS, which is a most important topic for the exam purpose. We have to understand and we will take the overview of the DGPS, means what is the DGPS and how it works to calculate their position with accuracy. And after that, we will also see some sources of error for the DGPS, or we can say GPS calculation. So what are the sources actually which occur the error into the readings? So first of all, we have to understand what is DGPS. DGPS is the differential global positioning system, and DGPS is actually a technique, or we can say it meet the requirements of calculation of the positioning and distance measuring applications with the best accuracy. Means GPS calculate the position, but DGPS can calculate the position with accuracy. So it has benefits for the calculation, and the principle of the DGPS is that the two receivers which are closely together, means we can say that they have the same atmospheric conditions. So the distance between two receivers should not be too far and too much, so that the atmosphere characters, or we can say atmospheric conditions, should not be changed for those two receivers. So the principle of DGPS is that the receivers, two receivers, are relatively close together and experience the similar atmospheric errors, and it has a necessary requirement that the DGPS, for the DGPS calculation, GPS receiver, one of the GPS receivers should be set up on a precisely known location. So it is important that one station, or we can say one receiver, is set up on the known location, means whose point coordinates we have known coordinates. So that receiver is known as the base or reference station, and this base station receives the signal from the satellites and calculates its position regularly. So the whatever the errors are there, they directly transmit to the rover receiver, which is the another receiver. As we said that the reference station or base station calculate their position regularly and continuously, and that location coordinates are compared with the known location. So whatever is the difference between these two data are applied to the second GPS receiver, which is known as the roving receiver. And this roving receiver is a moving receiver, means it calculates the position at the unknown coordinates that we want to be known. And this data correction which are applied can be applied in two form, means it can be post process for the getting the accuracy, and it may also be the uh, roving receiver in the real time with the help of the radio signal. So we will study about the types of DGPS in which these two methods can be applied, and they have different names, just like post processing accuracy is achieved in the static DGPS, and RTK DGPS has the real time accuracy or real time correction. So in this DGPS technique, there is a reference receiver which are used to know the errors with the help of the known coordinates. Means we can say that the systematic GPS errors are calculated with the help of reference receivers. So what is the basically DGPS? DGPS is a method of increasing the accuracy of positions derived from the GPS receivers. With DGPS receiver, the position accuracy is improved from 30 meter to better than 10 meter. So if we use only a single GPS receiver, then we can achieve only 30 meter, up to 30 meter accuracy. But with the help of DGPS, we can achieve up to 10 meter or less than 10 meter accuracy. So this is a technique basically. In this DGPS technique, there is a reference, or we can say base station, which calculate the their coordinates regularly, and the another receiver, rover receiver, can be on the flight also. So this data is transmitted to the data link, and these calculated coordinates or their corrections are applied to that rover data calculation or data recorded. So this correction, after correcting the data, the accuracy may be achieved higher. But there is a single thing to keep in mind, that they have the same atmospheric condition, and these two receivers must not be too far. So this is the basic technique of the DGPS, in which as I told you that there are basically two types of DGPS technique. First one is the real time DGPS, in which the base station calculate and broadcast correction for each satellite in the real time, means with the help of the radio signal. So the corrections are received by the roving receiver via radio signal, and the source is land based or via satellite signal. So if the rover receiver is based on the land base, then the correction can be applied with the help of radio signal, and if it is satellite based, then the correction may be applied with the help of satellite signal. So this correction is applied to the position. It is calculating real-time differential corrections. Uses allows navigation within 1 to 2 meter of any location depending on the service and GPS receiver. So in the real-time DGPS, we can achieve the accuracy up to 1 to 2 meter. So it is very better accuracy. And the another technique is the post-processing. Means we collect the data from the base receiver and rover receivers. So after collecting that data, the corrections are applied in we can say computers also. So we can use GIS to view the corrected files. So the DGPS correction of GPS data by post processing. So basically this technique is applied in the static DGPS, the technique of the post processing, which uses the base GPS receiver that logs positions at a known location and a rover receiver that collects the position in the field. So there is a known location on which GPS base receiver are calculating their position, and the real time corrections they are storing. So the rover receiver are collecting the data at different location, or we can say different unknown location. So this coordinates, or we can say this data of rover receiver are correctified in the software by linking the real-time storing of data from the base receiver to the rover receiver. So this data are post-processed in the software, which is basically the technique is known as the static GPS DGPS technique. So the files that are collected by the GPS rover receiver into the ground, these files from the base and rover are transferred to the office processing software, which compute the corrected position for the rover's file. So the data which are correctified are viewed or exported into the GIS, which is a geographical information system, which in which the data can be analyzed, and we can post process or to find out an output. So basically these are two types of DGPS technique, and we will other study about other different DGPS technique. So we will see that in third unit. And there are many permanent GPS base stations which are currently operating throughout the world that provide data necessary for DGPS, the corrected DGPS data. This data can be downloaded from the internet or via a bulletin board system, depending on the technology provided by the base station owner. So base station data can also be downloaded from the internet also. And what are the sources of these base station data which are post processed to correctify the rover receiver data? It falls into four categories. First, it may be public sources, it may be for the use of the commercial sources, it may be web based services, it may be base station ownership. So all these base station data can be find out which are fall into mainly 4 categories. And there are various DGPS services which are characterized onto or according to the broadcast range. We know there may be there is a local DGPS. Second is the regional DGPS, which has the large area than the local DGPS. And third one is the wide area DGPS, WAD GPS, which is also known as the satellite based augmentation system, means SBAS. So these terminologies are very important for the exam. And local DGPS is also known as the LAS, means local area augmentation system, which cover the small area. After that, regional area has more coverage, and wide area DGPS is basically satellite based augmentation system which employs the satellite to transmit DGPS correction data. Means we know that the corrections may be applied with the through the satellite signals, so that signals are used in the WADGPS. So local DGPS is also known as the GBAS, means ground based augmentation systems. So keep in mind these points. After that, we have to discuss another point in which we will study about the accuracy of DGPS and sources of error. So sources of error is most important topic for the exam purpose, because we have seen few questions in the previous years of the GATE geometrics. So we will focus on this sources of error. Here we will find out the name and we will get the overview of the sources of error, but these explanation will cover in the upcoming unit. So the accuracy of DGPS can be achieved up to the 10 meter, because in the early phase, but now this DGPS technique use the C by A code, because we know there are two types of codes. First one is the C by A and second one is the P code. So C by A code are transmitted from each satellite, and this from the C by A code, DGPS may achieve the accuracy up to 1 to 5 meter in real time. But after this DGPS technique is allowed for the civilian purpose also, so the accuracy is increases from 1 to 100 meter for the civilian use, which is more useful for many civilian applications also. But there is another code which is known as the P code, or we can say precision code. And this code is mainly used for the military purpose. So this P code has the more accuracy than the C by A code. We will discuss these codes also in the upcoming unit, but there is a table also of the accuracy of the DGPS. So this is the basic overview that DGPS may achieve the accuracy up to 10 meter, and for the civilian purpose it may achieve up to 1 to 100 meter. Now the important topic is the sources of error of DGPS, means what may be the sources that introduce the error into the GPS calculation or positioning data. So it may be many sources. First one is the ephemeris error, which represent, or they are the errors present in the ephemeris data. And what is the ephemeris data? It is the information about the orbital periods of revolving satellite, because we know that every GNSS system has many satellites and they have different orbital planes also. So their coordinates or orbital information of each satellite is known as the ephemeris data, and that coordinates means we can say x1, y1, z1 of a single satellite from which GPS receiver is calculating their position. So these x1, y1, z1 coordinates of the satellites are very important for calculation of the xyz or unknown coordinates. So these information may have errors, because there are many gravitational forces, so their orbital planes may affect and may have variations. So this variation is known as the ephemeris error, and due to that ephemeris error, the receiver can miscalculate the their position, and this introduce the error into the DGPS, or we can say GPS navigation or positioning calculation. So they have the error which introduce the few meter to decimeter level inaccuracy into the GPS calculation. So first one is the ephemeris error, second one is the ionospheric and tropospheric propagation delay. These terminologies that we are studying into the sources of error are very important for the exam. So here we are taking the overview, means what are the meaning of these terminology, but we will cover this topic in a brief also. So second one is the ionospheric and tropospheric propagation delay, and we know that this is the let me say this is the earth surface, and here is a GPS receiver. Then above the earth surface, above few kilometers above the earth surface, there is the ionospheric layer and the tropospheric layer. So this is the space which has the satellite, or we can say space segment. So it transmits the signal and for receiving the to the GPS receiver, but it may have delay into the reaching the signal to the receiver with due to the available of the gases into the ionospheric layer and tropospheric layer. So which is because of the velocity of the signal gets affected or goes slow down with the into the layers. And we already know this speed or velocity of signal is very important to be precise for the for our position calculation, because this with the help of this time information we calculate the distance between the receiver and satellites. So if this time information is wrong, then it obviously introduce the error into the GPS calculation, or the distance between the receiver and satellite calculation, so which affect the position calculation due to the GPS. So it also introduce the error into the GPS position calculation, and it is basically with the change in the density, as we know the refraction terminology, which gives the delay into the, or we which slow down the velocity of the signal. Now third is the satellite clock drift, which introduce the error. As we know, satellite has the very precise clocks, and if these clocks has small error, then it will considerably affect the accuracy of the position with the large effect. And the satellites has very precise clock with the accuracy up to 3 nanoseconds. So, and we also know that we have to calculate the time component for getting our accurate position, and the receiver clock and satellite clock must be synchronized with the same time coordinate, so they can neglect the error. But some clocks may have cause small errors which considerably affect the accuracy of the GPS calculation or GPS positioning calculation. So this is another sources of error. Now this is the multipath, which introduce the error. And what is the multipath? Basically the it goes with the help of objects which has the large reflecting surfaces. It may be a building or it may be a lake, because the receiver receives the signal directly from the satellite. But if there is a building, then these satellites or signal can indirectly reach to the GPS receiver, so it miscalculate the his position, and which introduce the error into the calculation of the GPS. So this is known as the multipath error. So there is another sources of error which is known as the selective availability. As we already know that selective availability is the error which are introduced with the by the US department intentionally to reduce the accuracy for the GPS calculation, which is basically introduced for the security purpose. And this error is introduced for the civilian or hostile foreign powers, and this is known as the dithering. Means the satellites clocks or their time information has been slightly changed, so their accuracy is reduced for the GPS calculation. So due to this selective levelty, the accuracy is not achieved higher, and that is introduced for the security purpose. Now there is another source of error which is known as the anti-spoofing. It is similar to the selective levelty, in which the intention is to deny civilian and hostile power access to the P code part of the GPS signal. Means all the GPS receiver cannot receive or decode the P code which are transmitted from the satellites and has the higher accuracy than the C by A code. But this C by A code is generally decoded by the all the receivers, and there are specific GPS receivers which decode the P code, and these receivers are used by the military of the US department. Now we have seen some terminology like pseudo range. Actually it is the distance between the GPS receiver and GPS satellites, and we already know how we can calculate this with the help of time information between the transmission of the signal from the satellite and the time taken to travel this satellite signal to the receiver. So this time information difference is calculated with the speed of light to know the pseudo range. And this multipart effect, we already know that the receiver get some other signals which are reflected from the objects which are available on the earth surface, such as buildings or we can say lake, so which affect the multipath effect. Now what is the dithering? Dithering is the process of introduction of the digital noise into the system, which we have seen in the selective levelty, in which the timing information of the satellite clocks has been changed, so the civilians or foreign users cannot achieve higher accuracy. Now we will see the Indian scenario of the navigation system, means how much development has been taken for the Indian GNSS system. As we know, every country, mostly large country, has their GNSS system. First one we have seen GPS, US department. Then another was the GLONASS, Russian department, and Galileo we have seen. There was another compass system, BEDO system, which was of the China country. Then quasi-Janet navigation system, QZSS, of the Japan country. And India also has the developing or under development of the GNSS system, which is known as the Gagan. So this Gagan is very important, which is also known as the GPS aided geo augmented navigation. So it is the full form of the Gagan basically. So it is also known as the IRNSS, means Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System. And this Gagan is the SBAS, means satellite based augmentation system. So it is important to know the characteristics of Indian navigational system. And this Indian navigational system are used to improve the accuracy of the GNSS receiver by providing the reference signal. And this SBS has the wide area augmentation system, which uses the frequency of L1 and L5 frequency, which are obtained from the US Air Force and US Department of Defense in November 2001 and March 2005, which has higher accuracy, and which are used for implementing the SBS over the Indian airspace. So the system which will use 8 reference stations, which are located into Delhi, Guwahati, Kolkata, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Jammu, Thiruvananthapuram and Port Blair. So this Gagan has 8 reference stations, and we know reference station which already set up onto the known location. which are known as the reference receiver. But these are the stations which are located into the 8 large cities, and there will be a one master control which monitor the satellites which are launched into the orbital for the Gagan satellite system, because we know that GNSS is the constellation of satellites, so which provide the positioning, timing service and the location information. As all other GNSS systems has the three components which are known as the user segment, second is the control segment, and another third one is the space segment. So space segment considers the satellites which already India is developing, and another is the user segment, means the receiver which record the signal or decode the satellite signals, so they can calculate their position automatically. And another is the control segment, and this monitor and control the satellites if they have variation in their orbital information, and these are controlled with the help of stations. So there are 8 stations and one is the master station, master control center. So this master control station or center belongs to the is located into the Bangalore. So this information about the Gagan is important. Now the major milestone in Gagan is that the productivity of the preliminary system accepting testing, and these informations are about the Gagan which are additional to know about the Gagan. As it was successfully completed in December 2010, the first Gagan navigation payload GSAT-8 was launched on May 21, 2011. The second Gagan payload is scheduled to be launched on GSAT-10 into the first quarter of 2012, and the third Gagan payload was planned on another geostationary satellites. So this is the development of the Gagan or IRNSS navigation system of the India. So Gagan, after its final operational phase completion, it will provide seamless air navigation service across regional boundaries. So which has the means, we know that every GNSS system has application into the aviation purpose. So similarly Gagan will also help for the air navigation service also, which are basically across the regional boundaries. And the ground system or ground segment will have the substations such as data communication network, SBS, correction and verification, operations and maintenance, performance monitoring display and payload simulator. So these are the basic features which will help the Gagan to be launched into their orbitals. Now about the Gagan, the project costing 774 crore is being implemented in 3 phases from 2008 by the AAI, Airport Authority of India, with the help of ISRO technology and space support. And AAI is helping because GNSS has many major application into the aviation field. Now the goal is to provide navigational system for all phases of flight over the Indian airspace and the adjoining area. So this Gagan will help to monitor and track, we can say, for the navigation purpose of the aircraft, so on to the regional across the boundaries. So basically these flights will be navigated with the help of Gagan onto the of the Indian airspace in the adjoining area also, and it is applicable to safety of live operations and meet the performance requirement of the international civil aviation regulatory bodies. So here we can see that Gagan navigational system will be very helpful for the aviation field, means it will have major application into the aviation after the development of the IRNSS or Gagan. So it was the information about the Gagan, and if you have any doubt in this lecture you can comment us and you can join us on Telegram for the PDF and quizzes. So please like, share and subscribe the channel and do the preparation of GATE Geometrics with the RGeometrics.